Yay. So, let's talk about this here project. And hi again, Charlie. That's Charlie.
Dorothy, hello.
Yes, we have Charlie here today. He's doing okay. So, this is a Vocopedia thing. You had said you were interested in the electroglottograph. Okay. Yeah, because there is nothing on it.
Yes.
And I thought, yes, that's perfect. And I think there's a lot of different things we could do with that. We could do a short description, and then we could probably get with Dr. Simpson and Jill Green in the clinic down there, and like have it on you, and we've got the display, and maybe get scoped at the same time, so we could watch vocal folds and the EGG display. That would be like way cool, I think.
Yeah.
And then we kind of get them in as co-authors, when this thing when it goes up. So I'm thinking that's a really good one. I have some sources for you. Okay.
I really want to do Fox, or like soprano Fox, specifically, because I looked on there and all they have is stuff about countertenor, and it's just one article. But I was thinking about selecting repertoire and the Fox process in soprano voices specifically, because there are so many distinctions.
Okay. So Fox system. Okay. How would we make that? I mean,
We take What's Love Got to Do with It and be like, What's I got to do?
yeah. Well, so you're thinking more article kind of thing.
Yeah, a little bit, but because I was thinking about how I would video that. But I mean, how do you train people to distinguish Fox? Yeah, like how do you show like students of pedagogy how to do that? Because the Fox system is confusing for everybody.
Yes,
And everybody's got opinions, but I think it's important like to know like the basic things about personality and the body type and what sounds easiest, like maybe distinguishing people's tessitura and stuff like that. Something along those lines.
Okay. I mean, there are some references, obviously. There's the very famous reference that is used all the time. And I have a friend in Germany Marty Byers, who made a video. I don't know if she does discuss the Fox system.
But like what it means acoustically. How it might be interesting to study how people perceive other people's Fox.
Okay, yeah. Now, we have to think, what can we get done between now and April?
Yeah.
So we have to...
Then that can be like maybe a basic overview of the Fox system. And maybe it could be something that I go more in depth with on the Pedagogy project.
Okay. So we would have like a little short, I think maybe something that might be really effective would be to have a short little article and then some exemplar singers with links to YouTubes. Then you're not having to get permission on the videos, but you could have, here are singers who are, this Fox, this Fox, this Fox, this Fox within the soprano, and then you've got links of videos that people could watch and listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, part of it for you would be really
I'd have to figure out their Fox myself.
Well, yeah, you remember in the first class, the handout that Shirley Emmons and I had done for that book, there's, certainly she goes through a lot of them, and she has some exemplar singers for each one, but you could go find others, because if you could find 6 or 7, and then a video YouTube link for, each one of them, and then a little short description, some kind of a, this voice type is characterized by blah, 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 blah. And then, here are 6 exemplar singers and YouTube links. Compiling that would be way cool.
Yeah.
So it'd be a matter of,
How would it be a video
well,
thing?
it wouldn't necessarily be a video. It could be a short article with a lot of links,
Okay.
and then that would be links to other videos.
All right.
And then just scripting out exactly how to do the text.
Mhm.
So I think that could work very nicely.
Mhm. You're fine.
What have you been thinking of?
I was looking under, like, of course, like the hormonal and effects of hormones on the body and the vocal cords, and there was only one article pertaining to that, and it's kind of more about like menopause. So I kind of wanted to look at what hormones do for the vocal cords, like even if it was just more like an article thing, or even where it links to videos of different vocal tracks while singing. And I kind of wanted to be a little bit broader, but I don't know how safe that is. Like girls and boys, like when boys go through their vocal change versus when.
Okay, yeah,
Girls.
I think we need to zero in
Zero
on
in.
either women's hormones during pregnancy or during menopause,
Yeah.
or boys.
And I was gearing
One
more
of
toward
those.
pregnancy
One of
because I
those.
just went
You
through
just
that,
went,
and I was
let's
very
live
interested.
that life, yes.
Very interested in the things I felt vocally,
Uh-huh.
and it would be interesting to look more into that and put more up about it because
Yeah,
there's nothing.
yeah, and I think, probably a short, a short introduction, links to, and then you could do a nice real bibliographic search for lots of articles about that, could be listed as references. And
I can see it now. So are you a female? Are you thinking about becoming pregnant?
well, there's
That's some
been
news
there's
for
been
you.
a good bit of, there's a lot of research on birth control pills and
Mhm.
the hormonal impact on voice. There've been several studies. Philippa Law has been very active in that, and there's several other people. The hormones during pregnancy, obviously you're not pregnant now. If we had thought about this before, we could have had you getting scoped during your pregnancy. But I bet we could get in touch with Dr. Simpson,
Everybody
and
knows someone
they
pregnant.
probably have some videos that could be de-identified of people, at various stages in pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because they probably have had some clients who were pregnant and, that were coming in in the clinic several
Can
times.
you imagine, like, seeing the way, how different it looks in each different
Well,
trimester?
I can tell you it feels different.
Mm-hmm.
It
Well-
feels.
Yeah.
I mean, being a singer and being pregnant, I was aware of things in my body that you just aren't aware of. Like when he got bigger, how much the room was lessening, and I could really feel like just on my diaphragm and my lungs how much air I was taking in, and then vocally, it was sluggish,
Huh.
and it just felt.
Like getting the cords like warmed up, sluggish, or like?
Well, yeah, I mean, just even talking, I would get fatigued vocally quicker.
Huh.
Not that it would like have any real effect on my day to day, but I felt like everything moved just a little bit slower.
Well, and yeah, you've got high progesterone levels during pregnancy, especially the first couple of months.
What does progesterone do to the voice?
Well, some people, particularly people who are going through a lot of morning sickness and stuff. Your whole body, there are, of course, ligamental changes going on throughout your body because your whole body, a lot of your connective tissue is basically loosening because the hormonal changes, seriously, for your hips to allow the baby to get out. And
There are
Do
days that you feel like you're walking on a ship.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that you feel, your gait is changing and so on. Kathy remembered a lot of that. But I think what we could do very probably is, you could have a short little introduction, a nice bibliography of sources for people to consult. They could be some websites, they could be some articles, and then if we could get with Dr. Simpson about, do they have a couple of example videos?
And I wonder if I could get in touch with my OB and see if I could like put up an ad at the clinic and see if anybody's willing to do a study
Ooh,
space.
yeah, but see, that's much harder. We don't have the time for that
Yeah,
right
this is
now,
true.
but I mean, as your pedagogy project, we could,
Okay.
because you'd have to get IRB approval,
Oh, okay, I see.
and that's because having scopes is invasive.
Yeah.
That would involve using the medical school's IRB, and it's not impossible, but it would take a while.
Not for this project.
But I do think we could, for instance, have, we can check with Dr. Simpson about, do they have videos of people who were pregnant and going through therapy and stuff, or getting scoped on a regular basis, and then a little short interview with him or with Jill Green or Janelle Sheffield about working with vocal performers during their pregnancy and what from the medical side.
That's
So-
interesting.
Okay.
Do you feel like you have gained like maturity in your sound since, or anything like that? Do you think labor changed your voice?
There was a lot of, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it did. There was like a lot of grunting and whatnot, but I don't think that had any real effect. But I do feel after, I'm not in shape anymore because it was out for a little while, but I don't know, it's helped like my breathing, little things like that. So I don't feel like I sound any different, but I'm more aware of my whole instrument.
Isn't like word on the street that for a lot of women, your voice doesn't fully settle into what it's going to be until after you've been pregnant?
I
I've never
don't
heard
know.
that.
I mean, there are a lot of women who never have children who have great careers.
Yeah.
Well, because we had Laura Claycomb come visit at Baylor, and she was talking to us about how if you want to have kids, have them early, so
Well-
that your voice, so you can retrain your voice after you've had a child.
Okay. Perhaps. I mean, that's her experience. And I think that's also, remember that that's her experience, probably guided by her management saying, okay, if you're going to do this here,
Yeah.
so that, as your career is progressing, if you're going to have time out, people say, okay, this is the year I'm going to have a child, and they, particularly if they're booked, well in advance, they have to block out a period of time. A friend of mine, Robin Blitch Wiper, she sang some supporting roles and things at the Met. The Celestial Voice in Don Carlo and some things like that, and sang at Chicago Lyric and the Spoleto Festival and so on. She she had a contract with the Met, and she had her baby over the summer, and then it was like baby and nanny and her in an apartment and so on, and then she's trying to do the stuff at the Met, and it was just crazy. And Renee Fleming talks about dealing with her kids and so on. My wife had my son at, let's see, 2001. She was 36 when she had him. 36? 37? Yeah, she had just turned 37 when she had him. So I have friends who had kids when they were early 20s, and they've had their careers, and she sang a recital at 6 months. When she was at 6 months. and was doing job interviews while she was pregnant. Up to the point where it's like, you can't fly anymore. She was going off and interviewing at places. And sang fine. She said she sang fine. And she did a recital within the first year of, he was like 9 or 10 months, because I was standing with Adam during the recital. So,
Vocal Mythbusters.
in fact, she sang,
For pregnancy.
well,
Pregnancy
the Vocal
Mythbusters.
Mythbusters thing is what Vocopedia is all about. It really is. The site is geared to be that way. Yeah, she sang 10 days after he was born. Yeah, and she sang the day before he was born. Yeah. She sang the day before he was born, and she had a C-section, and she was singing 10 days later. Yeah. Well, she may be small, but she is mighty. Underneath the cheerful, bubbly exterior is a will of steel, let me tell you. So anyway, okay, great ideas there. What have you been thinking about?
Well, so first I was thinking about weight loss and like singing while losing weight and
Yes.
the changes.
Uh-huh.
But then I didn't know if that was doable. Because I don't know how I don't know how I would. I mean, well, I guess it could work. I don't know. That's what I.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's very doable. Again, I think we could do something like you have an introduction to the topic. You do a nice literature review of articles, and then you could probably find, I mean, obviously Maria Callas went through a very striking weight loss in her career, and articles about that, which you could certainly find. I mean, Deborah Voigt has been very straight up about all the things that she went through. Ben Heppner had a big weight loss in his career, and there's probably interviews with them that, again, you could find those articles, and if there are video interviews, you could have the links and so on. So, kind of a nice compendium of information about it. And certainly you could do a little, you're going to look at a lot of those sources and say, okay, well, physiologically, what's going on? If you're losing weight and getting in better shape, it can't help but help you cardiovascularly, which is going to help you sing longer phrases and so on. The other thing, coming back to pregnancy and so on, is not only are they taking up some of the room and that your diaphragm can't descend like it used to descend, but they also are demanding the oxygen. You have this other body in there who is saying, I want some of that oxygen. And so it's a double whammy on your breath management, because you can't take in as much, and somebody's wanting about a third of your oxygen by the time you get to.
Do you remember when we did that experiment?
Yeah.
When we were all
Yeah.
practicing
Yeah.
how long we could
Yeah.
hold it.
The SC.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember all the.
I just
I didn't
remember
write
how
it down.
cool it was, like,
Yeah.
because remember you mentioned something about, not being able to, your diaphragm not being able to descend as much.
Yeah.
Can you imagine she sang that long and someone was stealing half her oxygen?
Yeah. So I think we have some great ideas here, and it's all in the structuring. What I would like to do, if you guys can just write me up a little, here's how I think we're going to do this. I mean, so if we need to kind of run through it again, what I was talking about, and you jot a few notes and then flesh it out. And then I think for everybody, the first thing is to dig in and do a literature search. See what's out there, articles, videos, because even if your your article will have information, a bunch of resources for people to, a bibliography, like a little annotated bibliography of some really good resources, and then, some video links, or in, the case of us, we might just make the video, Dorothy, it was very interesting. I was looking on there, and there is not, there's not anything about William Bernard, Richard Miller, Warren Brown, you know, which was very surprising. She's very interested in William Bernard, and he made movies that are actually some classics, and some of those are already available with Wikipedia, but you know, something like that's a possibility. But I love the ideas you guys have, because these are very, you know, for the science nerds and the speech pathologists and so on, the EGG, you know, there is nothing on it. I mean, I was, the hour before this class, I was in my office like, okay, because I remember Sarah said EGG, there's nothing there.
Yep.
You know, there isn't anything there. How to find formants, you know, how to do the vocal frying stuff, you know, a little how-to. There's nothing there. And how to do the voice range profile, there's nothing there. Some of my summer projects, maybe. Yes.
I remember I saw a presentation by Dr. Brooks from Texas Tech.
Oh, yeah.
He came and he to WT a couple years ago for their like vocal arts week
Yeah.
and did a presentation on like Voce Vista and
Uh-huh.
how to use it and all these
Mhm.
different things. And I wish that I had the packet. I have to dig for it. But it was like a really straightforward
Uh-huh.
like explanation of things, and
Oh, yeah.
something like that would be useful.
Yeah, well, I mean, John Miller certainly has that whole book, and Jim Dewing, I have some things from Jim. He teaches at Wisconsin, and I've put together some things, but I think just explaining what the EGG is, and some sources, and a little video, you know, we could do, you know, I mean, it's really very non-invasive and gives you a lot of neat information. So I think that would be way doable.
What did anybody call it, the egg?
The egg?
EGG
Yeah, egg,
spells
yeah,
egg.
EGG. Oh yeah, yeah, Eggs for Singers. Actually, if you go eggsforsingers.com, yeah, that's a website, and it's the EGG that we have is an Eggs for Singers. I mean, I have another one that's a laryngograph. It doesn't work. But. Okay. So I will take care of writing Dr. Simpson on behalf of you, Sarah, and you, Sarah. And I will contact him.
I love getting scoped.
And I'll copy you guys so that then you can communicate more directly with them. Okay. These are cool ideas. I think they'll be very, very, they're meaningful for you. So you want to do the work. You know, Johann Sundberg, one of the best pieces of advice he ever gave a friend of mine, because they sat and had lunch together, and he just said, look, if you want to research something you're interested in. Otherwise, you're not going to want to do the work. You know, and you're going to get started on this. You're going to go, I hate this. I've committed, you know, a year of my life to this doctorate or whatever, and I hate my project. Instead of, I can't wait to work on this. You know, so if it's something that's your idea that I can help you flesh out and kind of point you in the right direction, but then you're interested in doing it, that's what really works. We had a student who did her pedagogy project on the Fox system already. She did it more in the general sense and not so much looking specifically at soprano. It was more kind of a report of the resources out there and comparing some things.
I'm wondering if we listen to people and put it in Voce Vista, if we could see differences, like in the way their voices behave, like in each Fox.
That's very possible. We might see tuning strategies on sustained high notes. That's the best thing Voce Vista would be for. is like a sustained high note. Here's, Roberta Peters' recording of this, and she was a lyric coloratura. Here's Diana Damarow's recording of this, and she's a dramatic coloratura. Or here's Joan Sutherland's recording of it. She's a dramatic coloratura. Here's whoever's recording of it, and she's a lyric soprano who was kind of faking it, I think that could, that might be better for the project than something now, but to be continued. Yay. Yes,
How
ma'am.
do you use information like that about Fox with less developed voices when you don't really know
Right.
yet where it could go?
Yeah, I think you have to
Do-
use it very cautiously.
Yeah.
Well, in Germany, they use the Fox system
Oh, I know.
for those training purposes.
Yeah.
Like there's like, the very bottom is like a character sopran, and character soprans is like your Barbarina. It's the small roles, things that aren't,
Papagena.
and Papagena, things that aren't incredibly vocally taxing, but the Fox system is arranged and organized so that, like within certain levels, there's movement.
Yeah, there could
There's
be
growth.
career development.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
and
do you,
certainly.
like, give them like try this aria and this Bach and then see how their voice responds to it?
Yeah, there is that. And I mean, teachers do that anyway. I'm hearing this. Let's take a look at this aria, and see how
See how
this
it
last
fits.
page feels, There certainly can be that. And I did an interview with Bob Spillman, who used to be co-director of the opera program at Aspen. And he was at Eastman School of Music. I mean, he used to accompany Jan de Gaetani. He used to accompany James Galway. He used to accompany, he had a distinguished career as an accompanist. And he lived over in Germany for a number of years. And he said that the agents over there had an interesting way. They would hear you, you might go audition and you would sing X and Y and Z, and they would say, we don't have an opening for that, but could you come back in a month and sing this for us? If they thought you were singing maybe not quite the right Fach, or they wanted to see if that glimmer of potential for this might be something they would,
That they can market.
yeah, that they could market. And so, if it were agents or if it were managers of opera houses, they did it more that way. They would, rather than saying no, if they liked someone but they just this doesn't quite match the look, or I'm kind of hearing this, aren't you? And then they would say, thank you, could you come back in a month and sing for us, and we'd like to hear you sing this. And he told the story of a soprano who went in, and what she was really trying to show, she wanted them to be curious and keep listening. And so the first thing she sang was "Lo Perduta," which is Barbarina's little aria. And they're like, okay. And then they saw, she had some other things, and they said, well, of your list, what would you like to sing? And she said, well, I'd like for to sing this. And, okay. And then they heard her sing, I don't know, Susanna or something like that. They're like, okay, yeah, all right. And she had it kind of strategically planned so that they kept hearing more of her voice doing what she wanted to do. She was leading them in how she had it kind of laid out. And he said it was really, really smart. Now, you can go over there, and a good friend of mine, Todd Teskey, beautiful, I may have told this story, he went over there and he sang the daughter of the regiment aria with the 9 high Cs, and he sang Dandini's aria from Cenerentola with 9 high Cs. And then they said, Haben Sie Tamino? They wanted to hear him sing Tamino, which, the flute aria, he could roll out of bed and sing that. Die Spieltnis, not so. That's a heavier voice. And, he was like, okay, 18 high Cs is not enough for you. And he knew it, and it's like, yeah, okay, you know. So it was not his best audition, though, you know, because he was already fatigued from having sung high, 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 and now they wanted to hear passaggio and fuller. So they can be very mean, you know. They can be very, very mean. So anyway, the Fox system is a very fascinating thing, and I think it's important for, especially if you're interested in maybe going over and trying to work, or if you're thinking about your teaching career and understanding this for how could I use this.
Yeah, because in a lot of ways, you might have students who want to.
Mm-hmm.
What do you tell them?
Mm-hmm.
Putting together aria packages, like, it's terrifying.
Yeah. Well, and you look at some of those things and you go, wait, I can't sing that. And yet these other things, yes, but then that. Because there's some weird things in some of those lists, too.
Mm-hmm.
There's some weird things.
And they say a lot about you, your list, and the Fox that you put on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Like, someone can look at it and be like, wow, that's confusing. What is she?
Mm-hmm.
What does she do best? Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, any more questions? So I think right now, so we talked about going through it again. So we talked about, yeah, it's running.
Yeah, we have it on video.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Well, I can just, I'll put it on Blackboard and you can just go from there. So, and for the Sarai, I will contact Dr. Simpson and I will pass that on to you. Well, and I have EGGs, you know, you can at least take a look at them and we can see, we can try them out again. I mean, they're very fickle. I'll just say that. They can be very fickle.
I just pictured the two of you in
Nerdland.
lab coats. You know, like in the Emperor's New
Lullaby
Groove,
in Nerdland.
when
That's
Crumb and
right.
Yzma like go down the thing and they like pop out of their roller coaster and they're in their lab coats. That's what I pictured, you guys rolling into the lab like
theme of our video
Yeah,
in costume.
yeah.
Why do we even have that lever in regards to
Well, moving on. So, let's see. Here we are. So, we are, Wednesday we'll do some stuff with vocalizing. We'll finish up what we were doing in terms of talking about the vocalizing thing and a little activity looking at some. Friday, the rumor is true. My son did make the regionals.
Oh, yay!
His 4x100 relay made it. He didn't make it in the 200 or the 500, but the 4x100 did make it. Yay! So Friday morning, we're getting up at about 4:30, and we'll be on the road, which is normal. And I mean, we get up at 4:30 every day anyway because of practice. But we will be driving to Houston
Yeah.
to get there in time for the start of the meet, and because this event is the last event. But
Yeah, 4-hour drive.
yeah, well, try to find a hotel room in the Houston metro area this weekend. What's happening in Houston this weekend?
Oh, yeah.
The Super Bowl.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. So, anyway,
My family has a couple twin beds.
yeah. Well, we have some friends in Katy, and we may be calling them actually because it's kind of tough. Anyway, luckily the meet is on this side of Houston. So Friday is out, but we will do on Wednesday. We'll do more stuff, and we'll have some vocalises, and it'll be like, okay, what's this doing? And some, all right, let's make up a vocalise to work on
We're going to be
X.
each other's guinea pigs.
Oh, we could. We could. We'll see how far we get. Because you guys will have an assignment where I'm going to give you some vocalises and you have to tear them apart. Okay, what's this for? You know, why these vowels? Why these consonants? Why this range? Why this pattern? And kind of figure it out. So we'll do that. But I thought, since our time is a little shorter. And he's going to,
No sleep or anything.
well, me droning on, that's enough to put anybody asleep.
Except
Let's-
us, Ron.
Let's look at our burning questions.
Oh, yes, bunch of questions.
So, a question that we had was,
Okay.
how do you negotiate the payment that you deserve without bankrupting people or pricing yourself out of work? That was kind of my spin on it. How much should I charge for lessons? Well, how might we start that?
Well, I know the high schools in this part of town, you $18 for a half hour is what I know.
Mhm. So you put out some feelers and you find out, well, what is kind of the price range?
But also your education level. is
That's
important.
true. That's true.
And how long you've been teaching.
Uh-huh. There's a lot of factors to go in there. I mean, at Musical Arts Center of San Antonio, Kathy teaches. They got to really want to study with her because they have different price tiers, you know, and she has a doctorate. And Ken Thompson, who's the director, he said, put the price, you know, they take 35%. So she gets 65% of whatever the amount they're paying. Well, for her to get like $50 an hour, then, you know, that person is paying 72.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
My sister paid that for the woman I studied with.
yeah. Now, I mean, again, she has a doctorate. She's taught at several different universities. She can charge that much, you know, easily. I generally charge 50, and, you know, unless it's like a student who just graduated from here and they want to take some lessons over the summer before they head off, you know, whatever. It's like, you know, I'm like $40 an hour, plenty, you know. But you have to also think, I mean, I'm keeping it pretty cheap because I know there are teachers in town who charge more than that. I know
Stephen
that.
King at Rice is like $100.
Oh, easy. Years ago, I mean, when I was in grad school at Florida State, Marlena Mollis was charging like $160 an hour in New York City. Oh, she had a credit card machine. A lot of teachers in New York now have.
Yeah,
They-
you can get that. for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep. You have the little thing, and zip. And a lot of student graduates of here that they use things like voice lessons online and stuff, and you know it's PayPal. You know, and people pay for the month, and when their payment comes in, you know all that stuff. So, but you have some overhead for that too. You have to think, am I working in a studio? Am I, and they may have a price schedule. I mean, I know you guys have that at SAMA, you know, and Kathy has that at Maxa. Some of the music studios here in town, they have a fee schedule, you know, and sometimes, particularly if you're on the more student end of things, they kind of say this is your rate. Others, you know, allow the person to set their rates a bit. Maxa tends to give you the ability to set your rate. So, like Rachel Hicks, who graduated from here a year and a half ago, teaches at both of the Maxa locations, and you know she's had the ability to set her rate, trying to find that what's going to make it worth my while, and yet is it going to price me out of work. So she's much cheaper than Kathy, and so they have a whole system of, okay, somebody makes an inquiry and the person takes a little interview with a teacher, you know, and they pick the teacher they want to be with, but they also are picking the rate too. If it's just you privately, yeah, you know, and you're teaching out of your place, this gets into the whole business of teaching. Joan Boyton, you know, who you may have seen some of those Joan Boyton rep books, okay? She has a book that she put out about the business of basically running a home studio. And there's some other things out there. Stanzi Roeder, who teaches over at Brandeis, she has a web-based thing that she uses for all her bookkeeping and all her record keeping on the students, like what rep they're doing, vocalises they do. She's incredibly organized.
You need to be, because
You need to be, because you're going to be teaching 40 people a week.
my voice teacher back at home, she got audited, and so she had to like
Because you're
go and
self-employed.
pull up everything
That's right.
that she had.
You're self-employed.
Absolutely everything.
There's a teacher in El Paso that she founded the Youth Opera of El Paso, and her studio basically, that's like her big deal.
Yeah.
And like the students that get into the studio with her pay like $60 an hour, but they pay for that pays like the accompanist.
Yes.
And then when they do one musical every year, one like Broadway scenes, and then one classical music recital, and so that covers
That's really reasonable, honestly.
and then and she has it worked out somehow, so
Yeah.
it's like a non-profit thing.
Uh-huh.
So somehow she swings it, and they rent out a theater and do different things, and she brings in people for like.
The bookkeeping must be very interesting if she's
Yeah.
running a 501c3 and she's making a
It's-
living as a studio.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very weird.
Well,
But
that or
has,
she
like, an
maybe
Excel thing.
pays herself a salary out of that. May be how she does it.
Maybe. I'm not sure exactly, but she came and talked about it once, and she said that she called the IRS and had them send someone to her home to explain how to do everything, and how like her guest bathroom is a write-off because
Yes.
her students use it,
Yes.
her piano,
Yes.
a bunch of different stuff
Absolutely.
that I never.
If you're a renter,
would've-
do you get to write that off? If you've got a private studio in your
Here's
home.
what our accountant tells us to do, and this is what we do. So we have the room that is our studio, and we have a computer in there, the piano's in there, all our books are in there, and we have a guest. We have just a half bath, and so we don't count the half bath thing, but the square footage of that part of our house is a business place. And so our electrical, our internet, our water, piano tuning, all those things. Well, so all the utilities and stuff on the house, we prorate for that square footage. We take all of what, the expense is, and then we take that square footage and what percentage of our house is that. And so all those expenses are essentially maintaining that office space. And then the computer, the antivirus, anytime we buy music, all those things, we have all of our business expenses through that. So essentially what you're trying to do is bring your taxable income down. So, okay, here's the money I make from teaching students. And then here's all my expenses, keeping my piano tuned, the computer I do all my business work on, the square footage, prorating all my utility bills, all those kind of things, music I buy, yeah. So you're trying to bring down your taxable income. And yeah, it's record keeping. If you drive, because I had a couple of students who, I had a student in Denver who had a visual impairment and she couldn't drive, and rather than her taking 3 buses to get to my house, she paid me extra, and I drove to her house and I tracked the mileage. And so then my mileage was deductible from my, so that was a business expense. So, I don't know if you guys are doing this, but like if you go to sing a gig, you keep a log in your car of, okay, here's the date and here's where I went. Then you can get on Google or MapQuest and you figure out the mileage, and okay, get on the IRS site. What's the mileage allowance per mile? How many cents per mile? And you figure out, okay, that's business expense. Here's what I made with my gigs. here's all the expenses of me driving to those gigs and having to buy music and having to get my dress cleaned. And yeah, I mean, you really, if you know how to keep all the paperwork together, it really will protect you from A, being audited, and B, from getting slammed with, oh geez, I've got to do estimated tax, blah, 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 which you probably should. If you're self-employed, you should do estimated tax every quarter. Yeah, but just talk to somebody who's a tax accountant. They can tell you all this stuff.
Yeah. And then also something that I think I had never thought about. All of my lessons growing up was just show up, hand a check or hand some cash.
Right.
But she said that she makes them pay for the month.
Oh yeah.
And then if you cancel less than 24 hours, then
You don't get the money back.
yeah, you have
Or
to
you don't get to
reschedule or something.
Yeah.
And that's really important too, so that you
It
have
is.
a certain amount every month that you know you can count on.
Well, you have a contract.
Yeah.
You give each new student a contract that they sign, you sign, and parents sign if they're under
Money
18.
bags.
And then yes, you have that contract, and in there, it's like, yes, I swear that I have read this, check, and they have to check off that they understand the cancellation policy and the, not being prepared and all those kind of things. Absolutely. You give them a contract. I've been burned very badly. There is a singer in San Antonio who I will not name. It is a guy, and he has a very lovely voice, and he still owes me $200
Oh my gosh.
Ugh.
because I was a nice guy, and he is, and he owes me $200, and he has a book of mine. And I was,
How dare you?
yeah, and and I've had students in Colorado burn me, and a lady that we almost took to court one time. Yeah, that was an interesting one. So, protect yourself. So in terms of what to charge, I think find out what's the going rate at the different studios, at the different high schools, of people at your basic experience level. What are they charging? Talk to faculty here. What do they charge? When they teach privately, and it's like, okay, well, I can't charge that, because they have this many more years of experience. If you play the piano well enough to accompany, you can charge a little more. Because if you don't have the piano skills, that's an additional expense that someone's going to have to work with a pianist outside, or they're going to have to bring in an accompanist. I mean, I can manage pretty well, most, if it's high school kids and stuff like that, I'm fine. I've played all that stuff. I'm fine. What key do you want it in? But if it's somebody, like Randy Wooding studies with me, well, Randy has a master's degree, and she's doing some Poulenc and some Britten and some stuff, and I can do pretty well for most of our lessons, but if she's getting ready to sing at Nats or something like that, Anna, hi, are you available? So anyway, okay, so write up your little thingies. I'll get this posted really quickly. Write up your kind of little one-page proposals, and then the next thing to do is start your literature review, and start drafting some language, at least for an introduction to this, and we'll get rolling on it. I'm excited about this. And Dee Dee Michael, who's my friend who's in charge of the Vocopedia website, I told her what we were doing. She was like, oh, thank God. We need more content and stuff. There's some articles I've written that are up there. I saw one of them, the one on vibrato, and it's a nice, it needs to be indexed a whole lot better than it is, so you can find things better, But it's a good resource, and the intent is really good, and I think we'll be adding some good content to it, especially, these are real practical. Pregnancy, nerdy stuff, because there are nerdy people out there. The Fox system, weight loss, these are all things that will have great appeal. So, Pedagogy Power Rangers. All right. So Wednesday we'll do more.